Let me know when you're ready.
We are live.
Okay, I call the March 24th board meeting of Bold ISD 2534 to order at 7 o'clock p.m. Would everyone, our roll call is, we have a quorum. We're missing member Renerath. There he is, walking in. So we have a quorum and all board members are present. So with that, would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? The flag is this way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second? It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as published in the board packet. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote on the agenda. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries and the agenda is approved. Okay, I'd like to recognize and thank the visitors who are here tonight. We have several people physically in the audience, and we have individuals online. Thank you for joining and watching and participating in our school board meeting tonight. With that said, we will move on to section 5 on our agenda, and that would be our public forum. Is there anyone here tonight wishing to speak at the public forum? Yes, Ms. Saveda.
Hi.
Up here, kind of 2 more squares up.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Christina Saboto-Hayda. I'm the Spanish teacher here at Bold. So thank you for allowing me to present today. I am here to talk a little bit about a possible trip to Costa Rica in 2026 with students. Students were invited. I thought I was going to have a little backup, but I don't have any backup. They're here in spirit. So I've asked for kind of permission or support to take a trip in the past. It's been a while though since I've been here and since we've traveled. Many of you know that there's a long history at Bold, and Olivia before that, of student travel to Spain or Mexico or Costa Rica with the Spanish teacher or the Spanish club. And it's an opportunity for all of you that have traveled. You know that it's an opportunity that is cross-curricular in nature, right? It would be out of the Spanish class, but it encompasses math, science, culinary arts, geography, ecology, phy ed, social studies, and et cetera, excuse me. And in addition to obviously fostering an opportunity for the kids to improve their interpersonal language skills. So it's not a vacation, it's an educational trip, okay? Typically what we've done in the past, we've taken a week off of school. I don't think we've taken any more than 5 days. Usually it's Saturday to Saturday. The company that I intend to go with, and I only made 1 copy, but I can get I can send the link if you want to. It's Interact Travel, so they're a student travel company out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. They only work with language learning students who are learning a language, and I've traveled with them before at BLH and here at Bold. So they're reputable and they have a website that they are legit. You can ask me questions, more about them or look it up online. So we typically have gone between the winter and the spring sports season, and we try to find a week that's most convenient for the kids that are interested. We try to avoid the Tim Orth weekend. It gets kind of tough with kids are in spring and winter sports and JOs and all of the things. So we haven't even looked at the school calendar or proposed any weeks officially. Typically, we would propose 2 or 3 of our first choice of weeks to the company, and then they see what's available. And depending on how many kids would travel, we might be put like with another school. That's happened before too. So in the past, I have traveled with kids that have finished Spanish 3 or 4. I'm gonna offer it if you're amenable to this adventure. Kids that have finished Spanish 2 as well. So kids that have finished Spanish 2 who could be in Spanish 3. They could be in Spanish 3 or 4. So that's what I'm thinking. Let's see. One year that I organized a trip and that I didn't go, I know that 2 staff members went. Emily Sackreiter and Julia Church went. That was probably in 2014. So I think the last trip was probably 2016 or 2017. We had a trip planned during COVID that didn't go as planned, obviously. And then I was here to propose a trip for Panama, I think 2022, which you approved. And then the day that checks were due, only 2 kids brought checks. So it didn't work out there. So I guess I'm asking for your support. I don't even know exactly what that is. I think in the past, the school's paid for my substitute teacher, and I think the bus transportation to and from the cities. Questions off the top of your head?
Approximately how many students go on these trips?
Okay, oh, that's a good question. So when I did the sign-up sheet the other day, I had, well, it's been a couple weeks. I did have 25 people express interest. Since then, I have heard, I'm going on this trip, or, it's too expensive, or for all number of reasons. Like, nobody has committed to anything. No checks have been given. Nobody has signed up. I would like 6. So how student travel companies work is typically there's a ratio of paying students to a free chaperone. So this particular company, and most of them do work like that, Interact is 6 paying students to 1 chaperone. So I would like 6 so that I am not funding, so that I don't have to fund this trip. I would maybe consider going with 5. If I could get 6th grade, if I could get 9th grade, if I could get 12, that'd be amazing. This sign-up sheet kind of happened before. A lot has been going on with geopolitics and the economy with even the last couple weeks. So this is just, kids expressing interest, and I don't know if they've even talked to their parents about it. They say they have, but, I don't know. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What is the expense for the student?
The student, so approximately, I looked at the numbers. So the published price, and it can vary a little bit because sometimes you can add on, for example, like if the zip line's not included and the group wants to do it, that would cost a little more money. So $33.65, about $3,300. The most expensive one is $36.50. So mid $3,500, $34, $35, $3,600. And that includes everything. That is, well, it's not their passport, obviously, or their spending money, but it's all their food. It's the lodging. I did fail to mention, even though I have it circled here, this includes a family stay, which is, for me, the most important part and best part of the trip.
What do you mean
So
by family stay?
2 students stay with the host family. Yeah. So it'll be a couple nights in a hotel or a lodge or wherever we decide. It's typically 3 nights at a hotel and 4 nights at a family stay. It could be 1 night hotel, 4 nights family, 2 nights, a lodge. It depends. We've stayed in a jungle lodge. We've stayed near Arenal, which is hot springs and a volcano. I haven't stayed on the beach for a long time, but I think that is one of the options, one of the itineraries. So there are 6 itineraries. I don't know that this would mean much to you all here, but the kids, I did email the kids and the parents with the link, and it's been narrowed down, I would say, to Costa Rica as the country. not exactly the itinerary. Also, sometimes the itinerary, the company might say, oh, or that's full, or if you go this week, really, this is the better itinerary. They're all very, very similar with little tweaks.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, we're still on our public forum section of the agenda. Is there anyone else attending tonight wanting to speak on the public forum? Anyone wanting to speak?
I just want to say that
Can you come forward, please, Heidi?
just that I get notification when the board meetings are, and they still say district office. I don't know how long you've been here. For a while.
Is that on,
I don't know. I get emails from our school today.
Ah, so you must be signed up for the automatic calendar.
Yeah.
Ah, I bet it hasn't been updated on there.
it probably hasn't, okay.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. We don't,
Because I really was on time.
thank you.
I had to run over to.
I'm glad I left the sign up there, so.
Okay, anyone else wanting to speak tonight on the public forum? Okay, since we'll move on to our next, and that would be our consent items on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the bills for payment, the minutes from the February 24th meeting, and the personnel enclosure, all under the consent items?
So moved up.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
It's been moved by Member Peppel and seconded by Member Benson to approve the consent items as published on the agenda. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay. Do you want to, I guess I'm gonna point out, since your spouse is under the consent items,
Yep,
or in the personnel, do you want to pull that one off and we vote on that separate so you can vote on everything else and then abstain off of that decision? You have that option. Or do you want to just abstain off the whole thing?
I can abstain from the whole thing, but it's.
Okay. I'm just making sure. Okay. All right. So with that, is there any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, we'll proceed to vote then on the consent items. All members in favor of approving the consent items, say aye. Oppose? No one is opposed. Anyone abstaining? Member Rederath is abstaining from the consent items. With that, the motion carries. The consent items are approved. Okay, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, and I believe that would be the superintendent report.
All right. First, I'll start off with we're using Board Book now, and we started that in January. We had people that couldn't find the meeting today, so I did update that. This is for people at home. I did update that, made the website much more obvious how to get there, and put it on Facebook here today. So got that out, and let's see. I'll go with a little bit more on the budget here. Last month, I updated everybody on our current situation, as well as gave some insight into what some of the external factors that had an impact on it. There's a lot more to say to that story, and I'm not at liberty to share due to data privacy issues. But this has been the focal point of most of my meetings lately. One of the main things we've been working on is to figure out how to fix this and how to make plans so that it never happens again. To prevent the predicted overrun for the current school year, and again to remind people, this is a prediction. This is what we're guessing is going to happen. It's not that we're overrun right now, but to prevent that, to minimize that, we've been working with the administration daily. I instructed the principals a while ago to not approve spending on anything that wasn't absolutely necessary to teaching a class. And while this won't come close to fixing the problem, every little bit we can do helps. We're also looking at how to manage our special education routes differently. I believe we can save money on those for the school year. There's still a concern for the coming school year. The admin team has been looking at ways to cut things out of next year's budget. There's a lot of things that we can do to positively impact that for next year. And it's going to cause some pain, but we have to do what we have to do to make it work. To ensure this doesn't happen again, we've enacted some new procedures. We've implemented new money handling procedures. We're creating a report that we will share here quarterly with at the board meetings to show the entire district exactly where we are on our budget. Other reports will be shared monthly at board meetings and on the website. People are going to have a much more transparent view of what that financial situation is doing. And there's still a concern that's shared by all school districts, and I kind of talked quite a bit about it in February. That's the uncertainty of what's happening to education funding, both at the state and at the federal levels. I mentioned the legislature last summer. They enacted a lot of mandates, a lot of programs that sound great on the surface, but when you really started digging into the impact they're having on education, it's hard. Something as simple as giving all kids a free lunch, as I mentioned in February, it sounds great, but then everybody stopped filling out those free lunch forms, and once they did that, they had to change how they bring out our compensatory funding, and suddenly all these like something like 60% of school districts lost funding on that, or are predicted to lose funding on that. So and I've got a little bit more detail in my online report. This is online as well. But if the governor's budget goes through, it's not going to be so bad. But who knows what's going to happen on that. Let's see, the last thing I'll mention here is too, I talked with Joe Schiefert. He's here to talk with us later today with Superior Transportation. And he was concerned after our last meeting that people, they heard me say that this was their fault. And I certainly never intended that. And want to be really clear that it was not that it was not enough budget money. I'm sorry, it was not enough money budgeted on our end, and it was not something by Superior. We've always had a very good working relationship, and I guess that's what I want to say. That's all I have on that. Let's see, a building update. The project, I put the update of the project in there. You can read that. We can see that online. One thing that we've been working on, Randy Tersteeg and I have been meeting with our attorneys and the attorney from Nexus, because one of the companies, JCI, put in a bid in September for our air handling units. After we awarded them the bid on, I think it was the 23rd of September, and they've had all year to be working on this, but then they came back about maybe 2 months ago, a month and a half ago or so, and said that they wanted to change the terms, and they wanted to limit their liability to only $350,000. And it was clear in the bid that it was $1 million or $5 million expectation. We're going to have on the agenda here coming up something more about that, and I'll expand a little bit more on it at that point. But I think we're giving them an ultimatum to sign it, and if they won't sign it by Thursday of this week, we're gonna go with the other second highest bidder, which is $65,000 more. However, they have to put up a bond when they bid these things, and so hopefully we'll be able to recover that money when we through the legal process. So again, I've got a little more detail that I'll go over once we go to that item on the agenda.
Any questions for Jim? Okay, Let's move on to our PK through 6 principal report.
Yes, hello.
Christine.
Good evening. So I have the enrollment there. I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. So we have a student council for our elementary, and I included a picture there. There is one student, our actual president is not in that picture. So Hayden Wolfel is our president for the student council. Part of one of their first tasks was to decide the staff versus students reward that was earned by the entire elementary, and they chose kickball. So we did staff versus students kickball, and that picture is also in my report. It shows a picture of the staff members that participated in that. Family time, we have family time coming up this week on Thursday, March 27th at 2 o'clock in the big gym. We will also have a book bingo night, and that is next Tuesday, April 1st. So we're hoping for some good weather because we had to reschedule that. And the last thing I want to highlight is our teachers. I included a picture of a recent training that they were doing. The students were not in school on Friday, March 14th, but the teachers were, and they were working hard. And so the facilitator took them through a couple of interactive activities that they could do in their classroom as part of the whole READ Act. So it's very exciting. Any questions?
I just have to comment on your student council. I happened to be subbing that day, and there were a couple students in the hallway. We have student council. They were so excited. They were going to their first meeting, they said.
It was very exciting.
Okay, any other questions for Christine? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Let's move on to our next item on the agenda. That's our 7 through 12 principal report by Principal Bodie.
I'm going to highlight all the things that I didn't get on there because I apparently got distracted when I was doing the board report. So there I have winter sports were completed, and Derek has a list in the activities section, but all of our winter sports and our one act play and everybody was represented so well, so many at the state level, recognition. Our wrestling team got an academic gold. Like it just, regardless of how seasons ended, there was just so many stellar things. And when I was sitting at the boys basketball tournament, I looked to my husband and I'm like, that our boys basketball team has more 4.0 students than any other, team here. And it was just such a point of pride for me to be able to say that. April 26th is prom. It's coming up in case you're not aware of that. The band and choir had their regional competition a couple weeks ago, and they both earned superiors. They were fabulous. I have been working with the 712 or the high school student council on reviewing our student handbook. So you guys will approve our handbook sometime this summer with the changes for the 25-26 school year. And this year we'll have student voice input, and it's so valuable. They have picked out a few things where I'm like, oh, I've read this thing 100 times and I've never seen that. So it's been a cool process. I also want to highlight a couple things that are going on in our classrooms. Last week I sat in Ethan Staples' personal finance class, and they were learning how to buy a car. So the prep work for the final activity, they had gone through the loan process, how to negotiate, what interest rates are at banks, and they had all of the things. And then Mr. Staples was the used car salesman, and then the students went up in pairs and had picked out what kind of car they wanted to buy. They all had the same budget, the same down payment, and they had to go through the series of steps to negotiate buying a car. It was fabulous. And I learned so much because I'm going to be buying a car for the first time in 10 years pretty soon. And I'm like, I want you guys to all come with me. But it was just the real life stuff. Serious. They're like, field trip. I'm like, yes. It's such an example of the things that you see out there where schools should be teaching this and that. Well, we are. And we're doing it in a way that's not a worksheet and fill this out and here's how you buy a car. It was real life examples. And they were good. And Mr. Staples was good. I'm like, I couldn't do that. So it was fabulous. And then in Miss Christie's class coming up, and I just talked to Margaret about this as well, in one of her culinary classes, they're going to be planning, cooking, and serving a meal to the K-12 students. So that's coming up. I think they're serving on the 31st. And tomorrow is taste testing, right, Margaret?
Yeah,
Tomorrow. I'm going to try not to be busy at that time doing taste tests. So those are a few things going on. And then if we go down to the safety and wellness, where you see one thing there, I want to highlight a few more things. On April 25th, we'll have the Towards Zero Death here to do some work. I know they have simulators and things with traffic safety. We'll have a drug prevention presentation on April 21st from Woodland Centers. We have Career Day that the city plans on April 30th and 712 Field Day on April 30th as well. So those are just a few safety and wellness things coming up. And we graduated our second cohort of to be continued students, and that's huge. That's really cool. Thank you to Julia Church for allowing that in her classroom and building your work around that work as well. It's so meaningful for our students. Questions?
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the activities report. Derek, I see you're here. I assume you want to present tonight?
Possible to premiere on these, Jim?
It is. Before I get to the activities, I just want to go over the community ed, which the report should be, or it's in my report, but we've dialed back community ed for the summer greatly, just from a budget standpoint. Had put a lot of time and energy into trying to figure out how to get what was previously our summer rec program back. After meeting with the admin and then meeting with my community ed advisory board a week ago for our second meeting of the month. It just looked like the price point was getting up to make sure we covered cost. I'm not sure if I had a grant yet to help with busing, and that would have probably made it possible, but with construction and everything, we've decided to hold off on this until we get a little further into the construction project. And then also, should know better some budgeting things, and I'll try to get ahead of this a little bit better next year so we're able to run this program as soon as possible. But we want to bring back some summer youth program. Thought we had it going. It just didn't quite get to the point this year where we thought it was going to be successful. So rather than rush out something that might have been really chaotic and not quite ready for where we are in the construction project and where we are on a budget right now, decided to just hold off on this one. This one's going to work up there. Okay. Do you know what it's labeled as? Lionheart. Yep. Okay. So what I wanted to show tonight was where we're at with our digital trophy case project. This is something that myself, with the help of Mark Schwiderski, who's been really good about this, has come in a couple of times to help me set up some stuff with the camera to start photographing some of the trophies. I didn't do this on purpose. I didn't put Sheehan's kid up there on purpose. This was just when we first put it together, what we had. And then I've got two STAs, Carson Service and my son Owen, that are going in. We've got one of the storage rooms in the locker room kind of set up like a dark room to photograph all of these. They're knocking out about 15 pictures a day each of some of our old trophies. And we're starting to get this up. Now, before I go into it too far, this is not the finished product yet. This is kind of a midpoint of where we are, and it's got some neat stuff on it. So I just want to get it out there and get people looking at this, and then talk about kind of our next step at the end and where we have to go from here. But this is where the page will land you, kind of the home page. I have asked them to put a little bit of history, which we've got titled A Bold Beginning,
on the homepage here. Basically this text goes through the creation of the unified sports, not so much the school. But it talks about, because really our sports started to come together in 84, 85. Wrestling was the first one to come together between Bird Island and Olivia. And if I'm wrong on any of these, because you were on one of these teams, go ahead and email me and I'll get it updated. But I went through the yearbooks and tried to figure out when all of them went together. And we just wrote something up here that kind of goes through how each sport was unified. This is the oldest picture we can find. This is out of the Bird Island trophy case of the 1913-14 Bird Island basketball team. So there's a lot of this history is stuff that was not in our trophy cases. There's a room pretty much straight down below that part of the library. If you remember the old teacher's lounge over here, there's a room down below that. And there was boxes and boxes of trophies just being housed down there. And it's just a case we didn't have anywhere to put these. So a lot of those are Olivia. Some of them are Bold. There's not any Bird Island Lake Lillian on here yet, just for the simple fact that we've got the photography stuff set up here right now. And once we finish here, we've got about 60 trophies left to take pictures of here. Then we'll move the setup over to Bird Island and start going through the cases over there that house a lot of the Bird Island stuff, plus our dance, etc. But if you go into, I'm just going to open up the Olivia Wildcats one. Within this, there is literally a trophy case that will show in here. This one we've got to edit a little bit. And we took pictures as they were, because obviously I can't go back and fix something that we took out of a bin that unfortunately wasn't cared for, the best before I got there. But some of these date back an awfully long time. And if somebody goes into this, this will essentially be a website. So it'll be global access for anybody who's alumni here. This is sortable by sport. So if I want to look at the most common one is wrestling, so that's what we'll use. Maybe not in that one. I know the baseball ones are some of the oldest ones. I can then sort by year. So 1942, this is the oldest trophy that we have found to date. And the camera quality, and again, Mark has helped me with this. The photo quality is very, very good. You can zoom into these. The bat's not there, but you can read the lettering on this. District champion, 1942, Olivia High School. This will, in the fall, go on a touch screen that will be located first in Bird Island, for the simple fact that the area we're going to put it, which will be right in the new office area out here, won't be done quite yet here. But we'll get one up in Bird Island this coming fall. And if I click out of this, I go back to everything. So they'll still be accessible here in-house, but it also makes kind of the history of these school districts available worldwide. Actually found out that we have a couple of past state champions in track and field and cross country. I was on the phone with Randy Hall to confirm that these were Olivia athletes, not Bird Island. Randy's been great about helping me out with some of the history stuff. And if you click into these, it lists their place, and it's not real easy to read right there. But it says 3,200, second place, 1986, 1,800 meter, fourth place, 1986. Lists all of Kara Parker's accomplishments. I was completely unaware that this girl had won a couple of state championships here in cross country in the 80s. Found the plaque in one of the boxes downstairs. There's a photo on it, haven't got it scanned in yet because I have to kind of disassemble the plaque to get the photo out and scan it and then put it all back together. But wrestling, kind of the same thing. I'm having an issue with this opening, but these little arrows indicate that there is a photo on there because we have scanned some of these photos of our state champions in. But for whatever reason, this Olivia Wrestling page isn't opening this link for me right now. So that's what I've got on my list to contact them about. As I said, we're not quite roll it out ready. More of an update kind of in the middle of the project here. Our yearbook from last year has been digitized because we get a digital copy. This is kind of the next phase of this, is we would like to go back because we have most of the yearbooks back to 1950 almost, and have these digitized. It costs about $40 a yearbook. So what I am hoping to do is put this link out once we get it a little more ready. Use our social media, use our website, and ask individuals to sponsor their yearbook. And it would say their name down at the bottom of the page, that this person has made a donation for this yearbook to be available. But again, this one just came to us because it is already digital. We get a digital copy when we print them now. So this one is already up from last year. And here again, it's pretty user friendly if you want to zoom in, get into all the detail of it. Good clarity there. We can also, we have our team championships listed here. Here's a formatting issue again. The one on the right is how we would like the state championship with the year and the record to appear. The one just to the right of that, I need to contact them about some text size on that one. So lastly, we can put, we've got school records for some of our stuff. This was sent in to them. They do a lot of the uploading, which is a really nice service because it's just less day-to-day for us to do. But if we want to look up our individual records for a career in boys basketball, all available. This will also allow us at some point, I know there's a few people that want to look into potentially doing a Hall of Fame, and this would be a no-cost spot to put that. You don't have to print plaques. You don't have to find wall space. You can just put it up on here if we decide to move on that, which has been brought up. It's kind of floating in the ether right now, but something that gives us a medium to do this without having to figure out, all right, how do we spend $600 on a decent set of plaques every year for a Hall of Fame class or something like that. So middle of the project right now. Again, we've still got photos left to do. We're going to continue shooting those probably through the month of April for the most part. Should be done around that time. And then I'm going through and reformatting a few things in this. After they get it uploaded, I'm going in just to clean it up and make sure it looks kind of how I want it to look. And then as people criticize and critique, then I'll adjust from there. Okay. This was kind of a project we started last year. It's been difficult to keep moving with it, but thanks to some student help and some people in the community, we've got something that I think will be really sharp when we get it all said and done. Something that can, again, it'll be on a touch screen in both buildings. It'll be on the website. And we've heard some criticism, some comments about taking the history out of the trophy cases. And to this point, really what we've done is we've taken it out of a box and to our eyes made it more accessible. So we will still keep the trophy cases. We'll probably thin them out a little bit so you can actually see the trophies that are in there. Because right now they're stacked so close, you can't see any of the pictures. You can't hardly see what's in there. So we will keep the state trophies, the most recent ones. And the other ones, the plan is to do some kind of auction for those that would be available to the people we're looking at kind of mid-May or something like that. And we've got some other things within the district that'll be included on that as well. I know Margaret's got some kitchen stuff. We've got some weight room things that we won't need in the new remodel that will go up on that as well. So Any questions on this?
No question, but just a quick reminder that as you go to digitizing the yearbooks and you get donations for that, just submit those to the board for resolution for donation approval.
Yep.
Looks nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That does it.
A lot of work.
I think too, it's worth mentioning that clubs can use this. This can be,
Yeah.
there's a lot of other uses too with it.
Yeah, this screen right here, kind of the homepage for Bowl, has the arts is up there because we have one act play trophy we've put in. There's also an academics icon here. We just don't have anything in it yet, so it doesn't show up. But if we wanted to use this for, a teacher of the month to spotlight staff, or if we wanted to use student of the week kind of things and roll those through here, it's since it's online, you're not limited by space. It's just, we're only limited by the time that somebody has to put things onto the site.
I think it would probably be fun for some of the older generation to walk in and see, let's see that old trophy we had.
It's much easier to find when you can sort it by your graduating year.
Yeah. Nice job.
Thank you, Derek. Okay, we will now move on to 7.f, our pool report from Tracy. So the report's online and in the board packet, and probably the highlight is pools, I assume, completely refilled, and the chlorine is balanced, the chemicals.
Well, not quite balanced yet. They're in the process of doing that. Denny's still coming up and helping. It's as much an art as it is a science.
Okay. Again, if you have any questions, you can contact Tracy. Her email and phone number are on the report. So with that, let's move to our facilities report, which we don't have anything for a facilities report this month. And we'll move on now to our school board committees report, and that would be a facilities committee report from the last meeting. You covered stuff under your report, Jim.
I did.
Does any board member have anything to add?
Pretty much it's what he said. We talked about the storm shelter going up. Obviously, everybody can see that. They tore down the stage wall, or stage over there in Rhode Island. We talked about that. Basically the same updates that Nexus has given us in here. So.
Okay.
I might touch on a couple other things.
Yes.
So there's a few things that were brought up, issues-wise, that we kind of talked about as well. Gym floor over in Bird Island was one of them. They brought in the floor guys and they said we're just so dry. The cracking that we're seeing is typical. In the summer, all those joints will close up, so it's really not an issue. And it's kind of one of those things that when you get a floor like that, it takes a few years for them to kind of acclimate and kind of get stabilized. So they said there's nothing there that they're concerned about.
I would add Jackie Edwards said the same thing happened in Redwood Falls.
Yes, correct. There was a little bit of heaving in the track. It sounds like that is nothing to do with what was done to the track. It sounds like that was probably a pre-existing condition that was happening year over year. It just was noticed or brought up now, and it's unfortunate it wasn't known before the renovate or before they started working on the track. But it sounds like it's related to some storm sewer locations located under the track. There was a failure of one of the motors in the bleachers over in Bird Island. That's totally under a warranty. That'll be replaced. I think isn't here this week or the next couple of weeks. Abatement's nearly complete over in Bird Island. They're waiting on some costing for revisions to some of the alternative projects that we have. So that could be potentially brought to the board here as something that we could vote on. It sounds like fairly minimal. Costing wise, this was the bathroom, so the boys and girls' bathrooms would be across the halls from one another. They wouldn't be the existing ones. So they're still waiting on numbers for that as well. Otherwise, yeah, that's about it.
they are working on the track. They've got an engineer who's been looking at it, and it sounds like it happens every single year at this time of year, and it usually flattens out. It may just be something that fixes itself.
Any other school board committee reports to add?
Just in addition to the pool report that Tracy had, I sat for Todd on that committee the other day. And they are relooking at the budget. They're exploring some parts and revisiting certain line items on there, and it'll be presented again at the next meeting. They are filling the pool. There was one thing they're looking at, and this was something they didn't know about prior to filling the pool again. Something with the drains. There's a 10-year replacement policy with the drain. Is it the covers, Greg?
Yep, they have to be
Covers.
replaced. The hardware
Every
has to
10.
be replaced every 10 years.
Right. They didn't know about that prior to filling the pool, so that would be something that has to be taken care of yet.
So I'll go into a little detail on that. So what it amounts to is they had gone in, replaced the hardware, and as the company was leaving, this is the company that maintains the pool typically when we have fixes. They kind of mentioned to Tracy that the concrete was starting to soften a little around the drains, but it didn't seem like anything to be alarmed about. From Tracy's standpoint, they didn't make it sound like anything too major of an issue. It's something to be kind of watching. So it's one of those things we just got to kind of keep our eyes on it. And it sounds like she is going to be bringing them back in to at least start looking at what would that cost, what kind of, what's the long-term effects if we don't do it, how soon do we have to do it, that type of thing. So.
All right, thank you. Anything else on committees? Okay, with that, we'll move on to new business. Our first item under new business is a Superior Transportation presentation / discussion. Joe?
You want me up there?
Yeah, if you could come up so that your voice can be heard by.
Eric can stand over there and
Thank you.
have a presentation or a laptop to point me that way. I'm Joe Schiefert, owner of Superior Transportation Services. We've been your contractor here for student transportation for quite a while. 8 years. 8 years, I should know that. 8 years, and it's been a interesting last couple months because of things you guys have going on at the school. I've talked to Jim about that. He's aware of. We're all aware of what's going on. What I was surprised about is how we got included. Are we a budget item that is got a yellow highlight, a pink highlight, a concern? Probably. But as far as why we are, it isn't because of our reckless spending, our rates we decided to stock the school with this coming year. It isn't about anything changed that we went and bought 10 new school buses and therefore you guys are going to help us pay for that, so on and so forth. It has to do with the budget that was built, the budget that was voted on and agreed on. And so how that all was communicated in was it your most recent board meeting, I believe, most recent board meeting, how it was said. I understand that it wasn't intended to be that way, and that's a bad part about the media, social media, all that kind of stuff. They can do things, but I have to admit, I read about it, I listened to it, I saw it, and it sounded that way to me too. We feel relatively that we were thrown under the bus. In terms that we were thrown under one of our own. The newspaper, the West Central Tribune, the Renville County Register, the News Mirror, the Star Tribune, KLGR Radio, all kinds of media platforms, social media, whether it's just little chats off to the side or larger groups. I'm here today to talk to you guys about that. This is a budget issue, not a. It's an internal school budget issue. It's a budget that was created incorrectly, approved incorrectly, not a careless act by myself, our manager, our business manager, and those kinds of things. And I just want to make sure that you guys understand that, and that the people listening, wherever the camera is that the camera?
Yes.
That they understand that as well. Visited with Jim about this. He understands. I want to make sure you guys did. We've had a lot of difficulties because of that. Now I know I'm preaching to the choir here, right? You guys are got concerns and thoughts about things that are going on in your guys' end and all of that on our end. I've had drivers concerned, managers concerned, our mechanics. Why would it affect them? I've had each of them talk to me, and the concern is like, are we gonna have a job? Because it looks like we did something wrong. Like we're going to be ousted out of here because of this. We're a part of this big problem here at the school. The community has reached out. All kinds of different people. Our employees at our other locations have sat down and asked, like, are we all right? We're gonna be all right. If you guys are removed out of Bold, what does that do for us? Our lending institution out of Minnetonka reached out one day and said, I've got board members asking about you. What's going on? We saw it in the Star Tribune. Our attorney out of Minneapolis called me and goes, what do we got to do? What are we going to do about this? You can't. This can't go on. You can't be dragged down like this. Our fellow contractors, some of them nearby, reaching out, going, God, are you guys going to be booted? They're not asking because they want to come here, but they're going, man, this type of stuff doesn't happen. How are you making headlines? Superintendents from other districts we serve, we're getting asked questions that we wouldn't normally get asked questions about. We're getting asked about rates. We're getting asked about our contract. All kinds of things like that. The oddest things you ever see, and I know you guys maybe have surprised looks in your faces, like, how could this all be? I promise you, I didn't take time to come here to make up stories. And the parts we don't know about, how will this affect me, us, the rest of my group, moving forward? So a little bit of history, and I'll kind of get to some facts. I'll try to speed it up a little bit. Yeah, February 4th, we reached out to Jim in regards to scheduling a meeting discussing our renewal of our contract. We thought it's time. February and March are generally, that's when all bidding is going on. That's when renewals are going on. By the time March is over, the stuff is kind of done. Everybody, it's hard to. Looking at existing work and things like that, where we already own equipment, you can drag that out for a little while. Probably when you're looking at new work, it's kind of like after that, there's no promises of being able to buy things, trade things, anything like that. So generally February and March is when this happens. Can drag out into April. Unfortunately, we've had a couple times where things have drug out longer, and that usually results in a hurry up and make poor decisions. So we reached out. We did this to be proactive, to bring it to Jim's attention, as well as your boards who are interested in being here, and that we want to make sure that we've got a contract in place that you guys can move forward with, and so we know where we're at as well. At this meeting,
could I put something in here real quick?
Yeah.
I've talked to the owners of Palmer. I've talked to the owner of Northwest One. The CPA that Palmer hires was there. I emailed the board about this a month ago or so, that they told me flat out that unless we were to say we don't want to go with Superior Transportation, we're not going to sign a contract. They told me that no reputable bus company is going to put in a bid. And I just want to say that I think that would be a very bad move. I think we can work some things out. I think there's some savings that we can find. And especially if we're working together, I think we can can help our transportation quite a bit, but I don't want to say that
And I want
we're
to
not going to sign a
And
contract.
I want to add to that too, though, that I'm not here to convince you guys of it. That's not it. We're in other districts where this process happens. Generally, maybe it's every 5 years. Once in a while, we just more commonly we negotiate directly. So I'm not here saying that I don't want that. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of what you guys are going to find. I'm very confident, and I'll talk about that a little bit more coming up. At this meeting that we sat down, Jim had brought up that he was concerned about the total dollars that was being spent on transportation. That there was a district that he had worked with that had that maybe by size of school, area, geographic area, whatever, square miles of the district lines that is relatively similar. Maybe it wasn't one way or another, but we were far more expensive than them. That kind of hit me because I thought I have a really good handle on what each of these districts around here pay for their transportation, their per route costs, their per mile costs, their per gallon and fuel costs. I do a lot of, you guys study things. I do too. That's one of them. That's not fun for me, but I always make sure that when we're bidding things, we're looking at things, I have a good idea where other people are going to be, where their efficiencies are, where they aren't. That hit me. I thought, how could that be? That doesn't make any sense. I called up to that district and I spoke with their business manager. I don't think I spoke with their superintendent, their business manager, to find out exactly how could that be? How could their numbers be so different than ours? Their numbers are totally just for regular to and from. Regular ed transportation, a little bit of extracurricular, which does fall into that category too. They don't do any sped transportation. They do it all in-house. So when you actually look at what they're paying for their regular ed portion of it, if you had that group come here and do your guys' work, you guys would recognize about anywhere from a 45 to a 50% increase in your transportation costs. So complete opposite of, I'm guessing, what your guys' hopes are moving forward. So I felt like we got off to a really bad start early because we were thrown in a category of where, it's just not in line. I think with the research I've done, and I'd be willing to share some of that with you, you guys would find us to be very, very much in line, actually below the line as far as our competitors or other people that we do work next to. We met again after that. After that, I did share some of those numbers. This district, that district, ones that are close by. And I proved and showed that we were anywhere from 20 to 60% cheaper in our costs, in our per mile costs or per route costs or whatever it is. There was nobody around us other than us over in Buffalo Lake Hector Stewart that was even remotely comparable on a per cost. When we look at a total dollar figure, you can't look at it that way. Like some schools do a lot of sped stuff in-house, so there's no transportation costs to that. But there's other costs to that. You kind of take that money and you throw it over in a different category. But when I look at it on a per case, we're anywhere from 20 to 60%, and there's worse. I can go over a little bit further, and I'd probably be at 100%. You can go up by the cities, and it's probably a couple 100%. So again, that initial conversation sort of hit me like, how could this be? I never found us to be anywhere near the top. So I presented that. I worried at that particular point, how many of you guys knew about that? Did you know that your per costs, your per mile costs, your per out costs, your per things like that are very super competitive? As a matter of fact, 20 to 40%, 20 to 60% cheaper. You may not have. And I'm going to show you a little bit of that moving forward. That's kind of where we got into trouble here, where all of a sudden it looked like we were this careless, reckless, overspending bus contractor, and that's what has my other superintendents concerned. And they have me, and I'm very expensive in all of those things too. For the months of July 23rd to February 24th, just pick that time frame up. I know now we're well into March, but just using that time frame, Bold paid $964,997 to be exact.
What was that again?
$964,997.26 to be exact. The same months, a year fast forward, July 24 to February 25, Bold paid $977,362.06. It's roughly $13,000 extra. We had a 3% increase built in to our contract. My memory is not awesome. Actually, it's well below awesome, but some of you may have been a part of that approval process the last time. So we were allowed a 3% increase. So by rights, if everything is similar, which it isn't, it moves around a lot, we should have seen 964,000 and change plus 3%, which would have been where we would have been at during those months of 24 and 25. Just real rough math, the increase that we actually saw is about a 1%. It's 1%. So we're not only not more expensive, more all the things we've been accused of, and I'm not pointing fingers at you guys. I'm just saying I'm making sure that we're all on the same page. I'm actually not recognizing 2% of something that you guys had agreed to. Why is that? Things move. We've got certain parts of our contract, the regular to and from portion that has our routes. We can almost get that right to the penny by following the school calendar, knowing that each route costs this much each day. There's 10, 11 of them. There's 173 days during the school year. There's 10 routes, 11 routes, whatever it might be. Extracurricular falls in that category. Preschool falls in that category. Very predictable things that go on during the year. And then there's a special ed side, and that's a side, of course, that's got the black eye or the spotlight on right now. That's a moving target. For those of you guys that follow that or have asked questions about that, that is just zigzagging all over the place. And that isn't just here. It's in all kinds of different districts too. It's in most every district that we work with, the special ed part. So as far as how to budget for that part, I don't know. I'm not a specialist when it comes to that. We get asked to do things, and we ask when we need, or we ask how soon we need to get it going. We make sure Jim or Tom or whoever here at this district is aware of what we're doing and where we're going and what the costs will be following our contract. Get approval on that, move on, and away we go. I don't know what else we could do for you guys. I want to look over I'm gonna try to wrap up here pretty soon, but our total cost for transportation in the 23-24 school year is about 1.527 million total costs. You want the exact amount?
Yeah.
$1,527,185.48. Now, of this, roughly about $30,000 was some billing mistakes made by us previously. We made some billing mistakes in the previous school year that we proved back to the school district that we underbilled in certain areas according to our contract, and that was approved to have that paid. So really, less that 1.527 number is about $30,000. So that was not an actual. So what does that put us at? $1.49 something million of actual costs for that last school year. Okay, our actual our projection right now. Now again, that's hard to say because we don't know what special ed's going to do. Right, that keeps moving. Even within the last 2-3 weeks since these conversations started, things have moved. if we keep trending the way that we're trending, we're going to end up at about 1,448,606. Now, Jim asked for some numbers the other day, like where we think our number we gave Jim is north of that, just to be safe. But if everything stays like how it is, we're going to end up being cheaper this year to you guys than we were last year, even though you guys approved a 3% increase because of less volume, maybe it was special ed that was less volume. I'm not sure. Maybe there's less calendar days this year. I do have a page as far as where kind of some of those savings come from.
Special ed.
Yeah. Yeah. So special ed from last year. Yeah. Special ed from last year to this year is lower by about 6.8% so far. So although it's a hot topic right now, like what's going on? You know, I kept hearing about what's the deal with the extra $400,000 spent on special ed. Well, you know, that isn't actually what it was. Our special ed costs this year are down by about 6.8. Our regular education, and again, I talked to you guys about what that is. That's higher by about 2.7%. Our extracurricular, for whatever reason or another, is up by about 6.7%. It's up by volume. I'm guessing if we looked at it, we've driven more miles. We probably have a better idea. Maybe something changed where we're going somewhere this year that last year that came to us. I don't know, but we have billed you guys for 6.7% more for extracurricular this year than last year. Yeah, on a per day basis. Yeah. Fuel is the percentage seems drastic, but the total number is not a lot. Fuel's down about 300 and some percent. It equates to probably $12,000. There's a portion of the fuel we use when we get to, I think it's $3.15 roughly. Everything over that you guys pay for. So we're checking prices. We're making sure we're buying things competitively and whatever. And of course, the market has been down, so you guys have saved on fuel to offset some of that. So that's kind of where things are trending around back and forth. But by SPED being 6.8% less, that really does, help out quite a bit. So, in summary, here, it's important that we know, that the people know that the budget that was for the school year that we're in right now, for no reason that I can come up with, was aimed lower than the previous year when you guys had approved a 3% increase. Simple figuring should have been, what did we spend on transportation for the 23-24 year? Add 3% to that. You guys probably have some whatever back and forth, and that's what the new number is. Or if you guys needed that number to be different, there would have been conversation back and forth with us about, hey, I know we approved this 3%, but what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about that? I had a conversation with the previous superintendent. We eliminated a school bus travel. That was a number that we could say that there's $50,000 or whatever that number might have been. There was no conversations like that. The number was put in there for whatever reason. I don't know why, but that is kind of the reason we took a black eye for this whole thing, is because the headlines were that we were over budget by $400,000 or some number like that. The truth is that the number that was put in for that budget was $400,000 less than what would have made sense, what would have worked. Because I've shown you that if everything stays good, if you guys would have took last year's number and add 3%, we'd be well under budget. So it was important for me to make sure you guys knew that. Jim and I and Brad had a conversation about this roughly a week ago. Make sure the rest of you heard it too. Ben, very dependable, very safe, financially responsible. We don't have the fanciest school buses. You might see one go by once in a while. You think that's actually kind of a nice looking bus. We do have a few of those. We've got more that we spend a lot of time with DOT inspections, a lot of extra special time on fatigue and things like that because we're trying to not go and buy $125,000 school buses. When I started here, I was able to buy 4-year-old buses roughly for about $40,000. Right now, a 4-year-old bus is probably about 90, 95, somewhere in there. And a brand new bus back then was probably about 80, and today it's about 140. It's just in our increases along the way here has not even come close to justifying us doing major. We trickle 1 or 2 in here, and we have to do that again moving forward. We have to get pretty aggressive at that. We have a large group of buses that are aging. The DOT passes them, but some of them are on borrowed time. But we've been trying to do that easily, slightly, so that you guys didn't burden from that. And I kind of felt like lately that's gone completely unnoticed. So I understand that wasn't your guys' intention, but it's important for me to know or to tell you guys that's how it felt. That's how it came across. So not just me, but some of them and some of the people listening to us. So that's it.
Joe, thank
Any
you.
Thank you for taking the time to explain.
Yeah. If there are some numbers that I you can email us or whatever, some of them we have shared one way or another. She probably has some of them as well. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
you. Okay, we'll now move on to section or 7B under new business. And that would be motion to authorize the superintendent and district legal counsel to take the following actions regarding the work scope, 24 air handling unit project and the bid submitted by Johnson Controls. And is there a motion?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by member Assef and seconded by member Klaus to authorize the superintendent and the district legal counsel to take the following actions regarding the work scope 24 air handling unit project and the bid submitted by Johnson Controls Incorporated. Jim, discussion.
All right. In the description there, you'll see that what we're trying to do is we're trying to get them to sign the contract that they agreed to in the first place. And if in the event they do not execute the contract, then we want to have the ability to move as quickly as possible with the second highest or second lowest bidder, which is the, I got them listed here. I lost it.
SVI.
SVI, thank you. We need to get the air handling units ordered as soon as we can. So that's why I called Todd a little bit ago and just said, hey, can we add this, because this will buy us some time in case they don't sign it on Thursday. We're not really sure if they'll agree to this or not. They did at one point. They went from $335,000 in hold harmless to up to $2 million. I don't see what the difference is. Go $5 million like you promised us, and then we'll start our work. The steps involved here. Again, as I said before, in September on the 10th, they signed, they put in this bid, which is legally binding. And the bid included, among other relevant documents, the construction specifications, all of the things that the lawyers make them put in there. And they submitted their bid for $359,700 to supply modular air handling units for our project. Then they affirmed that they were familiar with all of our conditions around the project, and they said they would do the work we're asking. By submitting the bid, they agree to our contract in the accordance with what we have in the contract. Since they were the lowest bidder, we went with them. But as of now, they're refusing to sign to execute the contract that they agreed to with us. We've been working with Nexus. I mentioned Randy Terstig has been helping with this as chair of the finance committee or facilities committee. We've been in agreement that we need to get them to honor their contract. With the bids, if they put in a bid bond, and by putting in that bond guarantees that they're going to provide that work, or if they back out of it, they're responsible for paying the difference between their bid that we originally accepted and the second place bid, which is $65,000. I've got it more accurate. $65,000. It's a little bit off that to the penny, but that's what we're trying to do. Once again, we're trying to make it so this can happen quickly. If they fail to sign on the line, we'll go with the other company. Questions?
Do we do this motion, or is there actually a resolution, Jim? I just need to clarify here.
We could do it as a resolution.
No,
She sent this to me. This was actually going to be a resolution that we did if we were not going to go with them.
But we don't know. Oh, okay.
But we don't know if they're going to sign this or not.
So we can't act on it until they've decided what they're going to do.
Well, talking to Kristen Narengarten, our attorney, earlier today, she said to go ahead and do this.
as a motion, though.
As I guess we didn't specify it.
That's why
I
asking.
told her what I was going to do, and she didn't say to do it any different.
with this and having it as a motion.
Yes.
Okay, then we should be all right.
Has Nexus had this challenge with Johnson Controls before? I
No.
assume they've been around a long time.
Yeah, what they've said is they were they've been a good company to work with but they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and so they tend to try to do their own thing more and more often.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or discussion? There is a motion on the table.
This SVL Nexus has worked with them also, the second highest bidder.
They've worked with all of these companies, yep. And we did contact SVL, and they did affirm that they will honor. They don't have to, but they will honor that original bid.
What has Nexus said about, what have they said about this issue? I mean,
In what regard? Like,
well, just what are their feelings on it?
oh, they're frustrated. They're very frustrated. This could potentially slow everything down. So they're really upset with JCL. Or JCI, SVL.
Do we have any idea what impact there could be to the timeline if we have to go with SVL?
I don't have any data on that.
Okay, any other discussion? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay, hearing no more discussion, we'll proceed to vote on authorizing the superintendent and district legal counsel to take the following actions regarding the work scope 24 air handling unit project and the bid submitted by Johnson Controls Incorporated. And those actions would be: one, to issue final notice to JCI reiterating the requirement to execute the contract for the awarded bid amount of $365,000 by the close of business on Thursday, March 27th, 2025. That in the event JCI fails to execute the contract by the aforementioned deadline, the board shall formally rescind the acceptance of JCI's bid. 3, that upon rescission of JCI's bid, the board shall immediately accept the bid submitted by SVL, the second lowest bidder, in the amount of $430,000 for the work scope 24 AHU project. And number 4, that the superintendent and district legal counsel are authorized and directed to promptly initiate the process of filing a claim against JCI's bid bond to recover the difference of $65,000, which is $430,000 minus $365,000, resulting from JCI's failure to honor their bid. All members in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, and the authorization is done. Okay, let's move on to approving the Southwest Co-op Service Cooperative contracts for fiscal year 26. So there is there a motion to approve the attached contract to the board packet?
So moved.
Member Klaus has made the motion. Is there a second? Member Peppel has seconded the motion. Is there any discussion?
There's some things that we're hoping for in the following year. There's some things that we're considering doing in the following year that could potentially do some cost savings for us. There's nothing we can change at this point. We have to, for this coming year, we would have had to let them know that, for example, we're not using some of their teaching and learning services. We're going to save about $20,000 doing this in-house, which we don't see any problem with. Missy's got a lot of experience with doing that, so we're confident we can do that. But we can look at things like if there are certain services that we would like to hire on our own, especially some of the special ed services, we may be able to do that cheaper on our own if we're able to find some. But that's also the beauty of going with the co-op, is that they tend to be able to find the people to parcel out over, you're in this district one day a week and that district one day a week. So.
Okay, any other questions or discussion for Jim? I didn't open it because it's like a 35-page document, so that's why I didn't click on it. It'll take a while. Any questions or discussion? Any more discussion? Okay, hearing no more discussion, we'll proceed to vote on approving the Southwest Service Cooperative contracts for fiscal year 26. That's in the attachment to the board packet. All members in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carries, and the cooperative contract for fiscal year 26 is approved. Okay, let's move on to item D, and that would be to approve MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding between ISD 2534 and the Bold Education Association. Is there a motion?
Make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by member Sheehan and seconded by member Asseth to approve the memorandum of understanding between ISD 2534 and the Bold Education Association. Is there any discussion?
This is around the READ Act. The state of Minnesota is providing funds for training of this. We'll use those, and we'll use some of the professional development funds to implement it.
It is a very intensive training. I've gone through that, and it is hundreds of hours when you compile everything together. But for me, it was well worth the training. I could see it being very, very beneficial for our teachers.
I think most people are in agreement that of the different products that we were allowed to choose from, this is the way to go.
Just a question. If a new staff member comes in and they've had training, say partially from another district, and they finish the training here, how does the MOU work with that? It just occurred to me.
That's an excellent question, and I don't have an answer for that. We've done a lot of talking about what do you do if you've got somebody that got trained in another program, that's not a problem. So but we've never really talked about what happens in that scenario.
Or the vice versa, if they've done partial training here and depart, where does that stand?
Yeah, I will. Chris, do you know any?
Well, I know that that's been conversation. So as the district literacy lead, I'm a part of that community of practice, and it is a conversation that we're having within that group. Like, if you have a new teacher that comes in and doesn't have any of the training, then where does that come from? So those are all really good questions.
It's kind of an
No answers.
yeah, I know. There's a lot of what ifs.
There are.
Yeah.
There are.
We would not be paying them for something that they didn't do.
Yeah.
I would imagine if they're here for the entire year and they fully participate, we would, as long as that qualifies, that would have to come from the state, I think.
Yeah. And I think if they've done a year somewhere else and they're going to do the second year here with our teachers, then I mean they would slide into this MOU, right? But I don't think we're adding any positions, so in the end, it's going to be a wash for those that need the training.
Mm-hmm. It's another example of legislation that got pushed through that didn't have a lot of thought behind it.
I think maybe just to put a little bug in too, like there is the option, I think, that we could have people in-house trained as facilitators, and then they could do some of the training.
Mm-hmm.
So, the letters training is the Cadillac. Like, that's the best. And if you ask anybody, it's the best. But it also is the most expensive too. There are other programs that are just as good that will get you to where you need to be with the support. That could be an option too for those coming in later. Maybe it's not the Cadillac. Maybe they get the.
Yeah, well, I know I can't remember the name of the program, but there's one that takes half the amount of time that the letters training does, but it goes over the same basic things, but in a different way.
Okay. Any other discussion on approving the MOU? Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing no more discussion, we'll proceed to vote on approving the MOU between ISD 2534 and the Bold Education Association on the letters training. All members in favor of approving, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The MOA or MOU is approved. Okay. Okay, and the next item on the agenda is to approve the proposed calendar for the 2025 through 26 school year. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by member Klaus and seconded by member Peppel to approve the proposed 2025-2026 calendar for Bold school year. Is there any discussion?
Because the question came up in our in an email that came to me today. Just want to remind people that we are going to start 1 week early. I run into people all the time that thought we started 2 weeks early this year, thinking that would add 2 weeks onto this summer. The goal has always been to add 5 days to each summer. The summer consists of 50-some work days, and 5 days doesn't sound like much, but it's adding 10% of that construction time to their calendar. And as I watch things happening around here, it is pretty impressive how fast they can go if they feel like it.
Okay, any discussion? Any more discussion on the calendar? Okay, so with no more discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All board members in favor of approving the proposed calendar for the 2025 through 26 school year as published in the board packet, say aye.
Alright,
Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. The 25-26 school calendar is approved. Okay, let's move on to item F on our new business. This would be the third and final reading of the new policy to adopt the name of the school district as published in the board packet.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? It's been moved by member Asseth. Was that you, Mary? No, Sandy? I'm sorry. So it's been moved by member Asseth and seconded by member Benson to approve policy 101.1, name of the school district as published in the board packet. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye. Oppose? Motion carries, and policy 101.1, name of the school district, is approved. Let's move on to the next item. That would be our first and final reading of policy 214, out-of-state travel by school board members. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Todd just ahead of time. I appreciate multiple people. It's been moved by member Peppel and seconded by member Sheehan to approve the first and final reading of policy 214, out-of-state travel by school board members. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving policy 214, out-of-state travel by school board members as published in the board packet, say aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. The policy 214 is passed. Okay, let's move on to the next new business item. And that would be our first and final reading of policy 303, superintendent selection. Is there a motion?
So moved, Benson.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by member Benson and seconded by member Klaus. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? I'll just note there was like one really small change in the reference. That's why it's a one and done, because it's a minor change according to how we approve policies. And so it's very similar to the policy already already approved by previous board action. Any more discussion? Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All members in favor of approving policy 303, superintendent selection as published in the board packet, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries and the policy 303 passes. Okay, let's move on to the next item. That would be a first and final reading of policy 401, equal employment opportunity. Is there a motion to approve as published in the board packet?
So moved, Benson.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by member Benson and seconded by member Asseth to approve as a first and final reading policy 401, equal employment opportunity. Is there any discussion? Same type of thing, very minor change, just a couple of note insertions within the policy body and a legal reference change in the bottom section for U.S. code. Any discussion? Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote on approving policy 401, equal employment opportunity. All members in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. Policy 401 and as published in the board packet is approved. Okay, let's move on to the next item. That would be our first and final reading of policy 402, disability non-discrimination policy. Is there a motion?
So moved, Benson.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Member Benson and seconded by Member Peppel. Is there any discussion? Any discussion on policy 402 as first and final reading, disability non-discrimination policy? Any discussion? Okay, hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All members in favor of approving policy 402, our disability non-discrimination policy, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Policy 402 is passed. Let's move on now to our next new business item. That would be a second reading of policy 208, development, adoption, and implementation of policies. So this, no action tonight. Is there any discussion on the second reading of policy 208? And the main reason it's on the 3-month schedule is just an insertion of policy 722 added as an annual review under section 5, part D. So that it's plenty of time to look it over. Any other discussion? Okay, with that, we'll move on to, and that'll go to a third reading next month. Let's move on to the next, which is section 8, part L, our first reading of policy 511, student fundraising. So this, Mariella, do you want to?
Well, this, I saw that we need 3 readings because of the changes in there under section 3, and there's several changes under the legal and cross references. So I think with the number of changes, it needs 3 readings.
Does anyone have any discussion on it tonight? Okay, since this would be up for potential approval at the May 19th board meeting. It's a third reading. So if you have any feedback or changes, let any of the policy committee members or Jim know, and we'll make the changes and work through it. Okay, let's move on then to M. That would be a first reading of policy 613, graduation requirements. Just to note that this is on for 3 readings because there's quite a lot of changes due to Minnesota state law changes that we need to implement. The last policy, yeah, anyhow, I didn't generate a red line version because of all the significant changes to it. And we just need to work through with Missy here in the next month to make sure that we get things matched. That stuff gets also put in, because I think that also goes into the student handbook, if I recall, graduation requirements. So that's why this is being looked at this month, to get approved well enough ahead of time to make all the necessary updates. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on then to item N under new business, and that would be a first reading of policy 701. The establishment and adoption of school district budget. Okay. Again, same thing. Last policy adoption was in August of 2004, so about quite a long time ago. So that's no red line version was generated, and this is just complete update, to current law and other things. Any discussion on 701 on a first reading? Okay, hearing no discussion, then we'll just move on to item O. And that would be the first reading of policy 701.1. And that's just modification of the school district budget. And this is just complementary to policy 701. Any questions on 701.1? Okay, we'll then move on to our next agenda item, and that is P, our first reading of policy 702, accounting. Mariella, any notes on this?
Again, 3 readings, because it was last adopted in August of 2004, so there were a lot of changes in the legal and cross references. Because it's been so long, I think it warrants the 3 readings.
Any discussion or questions? Okay. So hearing no discussion or questions, we will move on then to item Q. That's to adopt a resolution to recognize outstanding achievement of students. Let me get the resolution opened. Is that not opening? It's working. Oh. Okay.
Let's try and download it.
I couldn't
It
open
just
it.
says this. Something wrong with that.
I couldn't open it at home either.
It's harder today.
Yeah, I didn't.
Give me a second. Should hopefully. Here, I've got it on my iPad. I can read it. Okay. I've got it up, but it's not coming up in the meeting, so it's just up as a separate document. Okay. Member
Apple.
Klaus introduced the following resolution and moved its adoption. The resolution to recognize outstanding achievement. Whereas School Board of Rhode Island, Olivia, Lake Lillian Public School District 2534-01 wishes to recognize students in our district that have exhibited outstanding achievement and brought recognition to the district. Whereas Ava Schloman has been recognized as a 2025 MSHSL Excel, which is Excellence in Community Education and Leadership Award winner. Whereas Brady Kicker has proudly participated in the 2025 Minnesota State High School Class A Wrestling Tournament representing Bold. Whereas the 2024 through 25 Bold Varsity Wrestling Team has been recognized by the Minnesota Wrestling Coaches Association as a Gold Academic Team for achieving a GPA of 3.530. Whereas the Bold Band earned a superior rating, the highest possible, for their performance at the large group music contest on March 17th. Whereas the Bold Choir earned a superior rating, the highest possible, for their performance at the large group music contest on March 17th. Whereas the Bold Boys Varsity Basketball Team have proudly participated in the 2025 Minnesota State High School League Class A Basketball Tournament representing Bold. Whereas the Board of Education commends you on your hard work and dedication to your community and Bold. Therefore, be it resolved by the School Board of Rhode Island, Olivia, Lake Lillian Public School District 2534-01 that students Ava Schloman, Brady Kicker, the 2024 through 25 Varsity Wrestling Team, the Bold Band, the Bold Choir, and the Bold Boys Varsity Basketball Team are recognized for their outstanding achievements representing Bold. The motion for the adoption of the foregoing resolution was duly seconded by Member Peppel. And upon vote being taken thereon, the following voted in favor thereof. This will be a roll call vote. Member Rederath?
Aye.
Member
Aye.
Osseth?
Aye.
Member Peppel? Member Benson?
Aye.
Member Klaus?
Aye.
Member Sheehan?
Aye.
And Member Frank, I am an aye as well. And no one voting against and no one absent. This resolution was declared adopted this 24th day of March, 2025. Do any board members want to make a comment on this?
We have teams and students that have excelled in many different areas in our school, and I think it's phenomenal what we're seeing.
It is. It's great to write this up and have this because you look at the variety. We have academics, we have arts, and we have sports. So Okay. Thank you, everyone. All right. Let's move on to section 7R under new business, and that's a motion to enter closed session under Minnesota statute 13.d.03 to discuss labor negotiation strategy for upcoming negotiations, and also under Minnesota statute 13D05 subdivision 3 to discuss the personnel evaluation of Superintendent James Menton. Is there a motion?
So moved, Benson.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by member Benson and seconded by member Klaus to approve moving into the closed session under Minnesota statute 13D.03 to discuss labor negotiation strategy for upcoming negotiations, and also under Minnesota statute 13D05 subdivision 3 to discuss a personnel evaluation of Superintendent James Menton. Any discussion on the motion? And second discussion? Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of moving into closed session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move into closed session. The time right now is 8:45. Moving out of the open meeting, we'll take 3-4 minutes to clear the room, and then we'll start the closed session.
Do you have an econ student over here that needs a board signature on their meeting?
We could do that real quick if they would. Yep.
Thank you. Right out.